Yeah, so I'm Brian. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, leading a team of planners and architects and engineers and all the kind of folks you need to think about development. And we have started last night. Do we have any new people, new attendees?
I was here last.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Okay. All right, then I'll spare you all the recap. So thanks for coming back, Evan. So earlier today, we had a meeting about transportation, infrastructure, utilities, et cetera. We had a meeting about open space and conservation. And here we are slated to talk about community character and housing. And but I'll warn you, if you haven't been to the other meetings today, the meetings tend to be a bit free form and they wander, often wandering back to traffic. And that's okay. It's part of the process because somebody says something and they remind somebody of something else. But don't get frustrated. If we're not talking about the thing you want to talk about, we'll come right back around to it and feel free to say, I'm here to talk about housing and characters. If we can just go around and do introductions really quick, and everybody just say who you are and where you're from.
I'm Craig Hoover with Character Development, part of the development team. I crunch the numbers, to add a little insight to the sort of the development economics.
I'm Rick Canada. I live at 4348 North Chapel Road. It's down here a couple miles.
Pat Walters, I live at 4241 Warren Road, which is basically Cedarmont subdivision.
Oh, and also, how long have you lived here?
I've been here it'll be 34 years next month.
I've been here about 20 years.
I grew up here and BGA.
I've only been here 22 years.
I think most of you were here. I'm not going to bore you much with it. But I've been here 6 years. Traffic engineer from Los Angeles. And
Named?
Bro. Yeah, and I kind of feel an obligation to be here. I'm a little frustrated at the process because, when we do neighborhood traffic plan, we'd have it all laid out.
He wants to see the plan. So I keep saying, come back Tuesday.
It's not a plan, but so I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what we're gonna talk about today. We'll see what types of houses you like, but we don't know where they're gonna go on the plot. So that's my frustration. Okay.
I'm Vita. I live just down Arno Road. Lived here 40 years.
Oh, Julie Van Arman. I live on Cedarmont Drive. I've been here about 7 years.
I'm Kelsey. I live on Trail Ridge Drive in Cedarmont Farms. I've been here on and off.
Rick Maharis, live on Grace Point Court in Albany. Been here for 27 years.
Amy May, near him, Albany Point and New Hampshire.
Janice Stevenson, 4284 Warren Road, the Firehouse at night.
Chelsea Randolph, I'm a planner with the Planning and Sustainability Department, City of Spring.
Joe Aguilar, I'm also a planner with the city planning team.
Linda Foster. Been here 4280 Arno Road. We've been here like 50 years. June.
And I'm Nelson Foster, your other half. Maybe the same.
He didn't even say better.
Yeah. I'll train. That's great. And also really interesting too that predominance of people have been here for so long. That's not often the case in Franklin. So it's good to see, to hear the stories people talk, shared with me about how things have changed over time and all of that. And so during the open space and last meeting, we talked about the sort of shortage of parks. Some people said we don't care. Our lot's big enough. I've got my private park essentially. Other people said, it might be nice to have a park. Walk my dog on something more interesting than just down the street of my neighborhood. The utility meetings, we heard about, or the infrastructure and utilities. We heard about traffic woes. We heard about concerns about capacity for different types of utilities and infrastructure. We heard about flooding, and all of those sorts of things. So if you want to catch up on any of those, if you weren't at those meetings, recordings will be posted. Listen to those. They are posted already. Whoa, man, we're on top of things. Good job. Posted on the webpage, Arno Village, Charrette.com. So yeah, so that's good. So today, just want to pick your brain. So as I said the other night, there's a presumption in this process that something will happen, right? Besides this becoming a park. So assuming that development does occur, and that it's reasonable and responsible. What would it be like? What would it look like? Not just like how big is a lot, because it's very interesting. There's been lots of focus on how big a lot should be. I would wager to say that for most people, if I gave you a pop quiz and put images of lots of different sizes on the screen, you would pass, wouldn't know how big a lot is. The lot size means something to most people. Usually that means density, right? They're saying, well, the bigger the lot, the fewer the houses, therefore bigger lots are better. Some people have an actual preference for it, because like I've heard people say, oh, I couldn't live in Berry Farm, for instance, because I've got dogs. I want to prep ball for my dog. Like I need acres. And then, other people say, I wouldn't want to have a big piece of property because it means I have to take care of it, and cut the grass all the time. And so there's people who said, I used to love cutting the grass. Don't anymore. Kind of done with that stage of my life. I'd like to take it easy and have less to take care of. And so we talked some about the idea of people who are downsizing. We talked about in areas like this that are predominantly single-family detached homes, exclusively single-family detached homes on relatively large lots. At some point, that may not be someone's preference or their ability to live on that size of a lot and maintain it or whatever. And so then what do? You go live in the senior center in the suburbs, strip mall? You move in with your kids? Do you have your kids moving with you? Do you have live-in help? All of these things. And then we talked also about kids. Like, when my kids move back to the city they grew up in, but I really would rather them not be in my house. It would be nice for them to be nearby so I could go watch Little League games, but they can't afford to be in, frankly, at this point, because everything's so expensive. And so there are options to do things that are smaller, but equally per square foot basis as expensive, so that people don't worry about their property values being decreased and all that. We did hear about in the big presentation last night during the Q&A, some people were saying, the bigger the better, multi-million-dollar mansions, those kind of things. And it occurred to me that, and I don't have data for this at all, so it's anecdotal. I'm going to look into it and ask some of my economist friends about this. But if you did put multi-million-dollar mansions in across the street from houses that aren't multi-million-dollar mansions, there's all of a sudden that disparity of that. Now the houses that were sort of the nicest houses are now elite. And so all of a sudden people are looking at, oh, well, that's a tear down. And so I'm going to pay tear down value as opposed to I'm buying that house to be my next home or whatever. And I never thought of that until I left here last night. So don't think we aren't listening and pondering what you're all saying. So character, that can be all kinds of things. Like, I'd rather not be based on lot size, just so we can have a more broad discussion, but like architectural style, like you see a lot of these houses, these tall skinnies that they do in Nashville. You see a lot of these houses that look very modern popping up in Brentwood, and, kind of like, what do you guys like?
big houses are already popping up where the smaller houses are anyway. And I don't mind it. Other people do.
As far as the style of housing, Williamson County used to be colonial. Civil War era. Now it's anything go, big white house, black.
It's quite popular these days, isn't it?
And
I've
black.
got a hotel essentially in front of my
houses.
house.
So I'm sorry.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think part of the charm of this area is the brick houses, stone houses. So freaking tired of a modern farmhouse. They all look, not all of them, some of them look very nice, but not all. When you come to developments and you see a modern farmhouse, my parents live in a modern farmhouse development, they're just all so boring. I think design trends are moving away from that. I think it's going back to more of the English garden, English manner. You see things like South Hall that are done really nicely. And then I think also in this area, like personally, I'm a little sick of the Savannah type feel. West Haven is kind of Savannah type feel. Berry Farms is kind of a Savannah type feel. If I wanted to go to Savannah, I would go to Savannah. I think this area could have their own unique character that doesn't have to be stolen from a Savannah or like Chip and Joanna Gaines special.
If you drive out Trinity Road, up here in Trinity, across Arno, and before you get down to the interstate down there, there's a church, you can run a curve. They cleared some land there, just that big curve going up the hill. And they've built a house up on the right-hand side. And my wife and I, first of all, says, is that an office building or is it a house?
Mhm.
Then you go past the intersection there, and on the left-hand side, it's Bonterra subdivision, and they've got all of these, no offense, but California style houses, with the roof going this way, roof going that way. They look totally and completely out of character for our area. And like I said, they're black. I don't know what these people are thinking, painting a house in Tennessee black. I mean, what kind of?
Air conditioning bills.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
actually doesn't.
the sun's gonna make it fade if nothing else. And of course, I wish I had stock in Hardywood, because that's what they're slapping up there instead of brick. And of course, it's cheaper. Doesn't have the air conditioning, the heating and structural of brick, about traditional brick, and a bullet will go through it. So yeah, I like the more traditional homes. Set back a little ways off the roads, and everybody's right on top of the road all the time. That's what especially as farther you get out into the county, that's what you expect to see. I believe we are still in the county, not in the city.
Right.
So, yeah, my humble opinion.
Sure.
Backing up a step, can you tell me how you got from a house per acre to this being a possibility?
Oh, yeah. Were you here last night?
Yeah, but I didn't quite follow that.
Okay, I didn't want to go through it all in detail if you, I know what you said last time. Yeah, so the county and all the cities worked together for multiple years to come up with their urban growth boundary. And it's sort of a interjurisdictional agreement that says that cities won't annex property outside of the urban growth boundaries, which is a new thing. In the past, maybe you had a boundary, but you couldn't annex.
So who are the people at the counties that voted for that? Like, what group of people?
Oh,
Election officials.
County commissioners, yeah.
Because they voted on the urban growth boundary.
No, they did not vote on the urban growth boundary. They voted, the urban growth boundary was established around 2000, 2001. Recently, the county and the various cities have come up with an agreement on how it's supposed to be. It's going to be reviewed every 5 years, correct?
I think that's
Yep.
what it says.
And some of the things that are in that UGB include the idea that you can build homes on used to be one, like I say, 1 acre lots. I don't know how it slipped to the half-acre lots. Planning people on your right might have information on that. But it's, it's the old, it's mission creep. You start here and then you just keep sneaking stuff along. So pretty soon you've got places in the county on half-acre lots, and they've got they don't have septic tanks. They've got a community sewer system.
I need to look back into it, because it was my understanding that the
Ebony Ridge
county.
Ebony Ridge has that.
Commissioners, I don't know, it was my understanding, so we'll look
Looks
into
like they
that.
might have appointed an advisory group, but ultimately they were representatives of the county
It
commission.
was like, what, a 4-year process? or something?
I think it was right around 4 years, and it was just recently.
Yes.
And agreed
Massive public
upon by
process.
most of the jurisdictions that were, I mean, it literally wiped us as long as there were some jurisdictions that didn't vote it in, and then they had to meet again, and then ultimately it was decided upon.
And then, so there's a whole, you can go online and you can watch the hearings, public hearings and things. People came and spoke about it.
Correct.
People came and requested that their property not be in the growth boundary in some cases. Some people wanted it in the growth boundary. So
Most people want it out of it.
those who
But this
spoke.
piece is in it.
There's both, but most of them want it out.
And basically,
Or.
Yes, yes. And so that's one of the things.
That step to how.
So
this
you,
identity-
but you cannot be annexed unless you agree to it, right? Specifically requested. So no one is annexing your property. No one is annexing.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how this triangle thing of
Whatever,
75
yeah.
acres can go to high density housing.
Yeah, so when you're
It's
in the,
travel public.
urban growth boundary, then you are eligible to be annexed. So then the cities have their annexation strategy. So they looked at, kind of like what properties are most suitable for development and annexation based on a number of factors, one of which is like utility provision, like how close utilities are, this sorts of things. And then once you go through a request for annexation, you get annexed, and you come into the city, and then you get zoning in the city. And the zoning for the city is kind of a two-tiered thing. There's the Vision Franklin, which is a comprehensive plan, and that says here's what a potential future land use could be based on the time that they wrote the document, and then from that you can extrapolate what the likely zoning districts would be that would follow that future land use or designated or the design concept. And then right now, at least I think what we figured out, otherwise currently the zoning that would be applicable would be a combination of lots that are between 4,000 square feet and 6,500 square feet.
Where is that? I want to see where that came from. Like, is that just like a,
Yeah, so you're looking at Vision Franklin
Okay.
on city page, and then the zoning.
okay, and what type of zoning is this set up for?
So there's R4 and R6, be the two that we.
R4.
Is this,
Now,
this is not in the city.
No, if it were to be annexed, that's what we started. Started with
What does it have?
annexation.
Is it contiguous to any city property, city boundaries right now?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It is contiguous.
Yes.
Okay,
Which is
so
part
that-
of the other reason why they made it most suitable.
Because
Right,
to-
was-
oh,
okay, find out.
I know the Envision Franklin's up there. I'm just trying to figure out
I
how.
was gonna say the other day, you talked about it was like 0.09 and 0.15. I looked at the calculation, but you're right, so it's like 40 by 100 and 60 by 100, kind of roughly lots. The other one's 60 by 100, but it's kind of hard to figure out, okay, what's 0.09 acres, but
I want to clarify on that,
Please.
like, so Envision Franklin has like different lot sizes in it, so it
Okay.
says you can go 4,000 square feet up to like 6,500 square feet minimums for what our design concept is right now.
And that's Envision.
That's
Franklin.
Envision
Oh,
Franklin,
thank
the
you.
lot size. So then if you look at like Envision Franklin doesn't have zoning districts in it, but if you'd say like, okay, those are the lot sizes in Envision
Okay.
Franklin, then you can look at the zoning ordinance and say, okay, what zoning districts kind of align with those lot sizes? And that's where the R4 or R6 kind of come.
So I'm glad you're sitting here.
In addition, you have to request, so in their process, based off what I understand, they're going to ask for what's called a plan district. The plan district they create their design standards based off of our recommendations and our zoning format. But if they were to just annex the property, the city has two zonings that they default to: agricultural or estate residential. So if an applicant doesn't ask for a zoning when they come into the city, they default to one of those two things. The downside to that is that they'd have to go back through for an entire rezoning to have anything different. The benefit of a plan district is that at the time of annexation, the city and the public see the plan that's being proposed. There's no deviation from that without another fully public process.
So you don't get annexed and rezoned based on, assuming we come up with something that you like, and then all of a sudden it's something else, like the plan development is the plan that moves forward.
So the plan,
So for simplistic sakes,
So I just want to make sure my understanding is correct. In Franklin, now the lot size is like 4,000 square feet.
No, so we have different zonings, like residential 1, residential 2, residential 3. So we have different zonings that have different lot sizes.
Okay.
Envision Franklin doesn't refer, to Jessica's point, it doesn't refer to any specific zonings when it says, like, for example, right now, a majority of the property that we're discussing is in single family residential design concept. And in that design concept, it'll list lot sizes, but it won't reference any specific zoning, because ultimately, there's a couple of routes to get to what you're doing as developing a single family residential neighborhood.
So
Does that make sense?
yeah, so if we wanted to, like, say, find a way to make this, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be relevant to zoning to make like a minimum lot size, you know, a half acre as he was referencing. That's still 20,000.
It would be relevant to rezoning. I mean, the benefit of a plan district, and they would be more of an authority on this project specifically, but the benefit of a plan district is that if they want, they can do as big of lots as they choose, or as small of lots as they choose. But it doesn't seem like the goal is to have the smallest lot that they can have possible. We do have language in Envision Franklin, and Joel can kind of maybe speak to this more if I misspeak, correct me, because he's a long range planner. So his document is Envision Franklin, and my document is the zoning ordinance. So, but Envision Franklin does give guidance to the fact that if there is development occurring adjacent to other established neighborhoods, that the outlying development, so if they plan to develop on the edges that are adjacent to existing lots, that they have to be contextual to the neighborhood. So when you're reading through Envision Franklin, that's something that is, it's not just, oh, you can just put any size and it doesn't have to like meet the character of what's adjacent to it if it is abutting a developed.
So the chances of going, considering a lot of the neighborhoods around it are like an acre, not to go back to the whole land size thing, but the chances of going from, you know, most people being on like 43,000 square foot lots to 4,000 square foot lots across the street is probably pretty low.
So internal to the site, it's possible that it could be a 4,000 square foot lot. But we would, as staff in reviewing that type of development plan, we would want that to be internal to the site, not something that is abutting existing lots that are an acre. So we, in earlier sessions, we talked a lot about how you guys are not interested in having commercial at the corner of Arno and Murfreesboro. And you want the development to be more internal to the site, like, you know, saving the trees and being more internal to the site. if it's not touching an established neighborhood, so like if they're creating lots and it's not touching, they have like open space that buffers everything, then yeah, we could potentially be supportive of that. But again, we haven't seen it.
Right.
So there's really nothing that I can say like definitively that we would support. But typically when we're reviewing planned districts and we're evaluating whether something should be rezoned or not, we take into consideration the contextual nature of what's being added to established areas.
So do you?
Sure, yeah, we
Even though you're in the county.
even though you're even though you're in the county, we do take that into consideration. But again, it seems like, and I mean, we'll know next Tuesday, their intent is to do something different than the way that Envision Franklin currently has it laid out, which is that commercial node on our neighborhood commercial. It's not like full commercial, it's neighborhood commercial, which is a little different, but it's on the corner there, and everything else being single family. So it seems like they want to do something different than that. Again, you know, I would say staff doesn't have, you know, any more information than you guys do.
So when you say that the rest of it, besides that little nose part, is zoned for single family residential?
It's not zoned, it,
I know,
yeah, it's in design concept, yeah.
The design concept of single family residential, that does not have any parameters about lot size.
That's the one that has the 4,000 to 6,500.
Because we're in the urban growth boundary.
Because that property is.
And
I'd like to know what you said, can't do anything that's touching, and I'd like a definition. Touching, for example, is the other side of Murfreesboro Road touching, or the other side of Arno Road touching, or do they actually have to be abutting,
Abutting.
so that they share a property?
so in other words, so yeah, you were talking about having all those lots, 4,000, 6,000, you could fill the whole area with whatever, and you might have like, what was it, 25% open space or something. But if you put some say you put like 50 multi-family units buried in the center someplace, so you don't see it that much from the roadway, you could maybe have a little more open space and all those lots.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of the
the
trade-off.
open space requirement for single family design concept in Division Franklin there isn't one currently, but the zoning ordinance has a 5% requirement. So would be required to have 5% open space if we went with that single family, stayed with that single family.
Only 5%.
Right, just to clarify, to make it simple for most people. You have 70 some odd acres there. You got to keep so much for tree canopies. You got to keep so much for infrastructure. You got to keep so much for everything down the road. Bottom line, you already know there's so many acres you can develop.
I don't know how many there are, but yes, that is ultimately.
So you basically know, and you're looking probably about some odd acres you could develop. And into residential.
That's how that math works.
I feel like that was almost.
Yeah,
That's sort of the
rough math.
if we were to follow the assumed zoning designation of single family, that's how it.
Right.
But what I'm hoping that you guys understand. I mean, you mentioned Southall. I developed South.
Okay,
So-
it seems very nice from the
Talk
photos.
about Armistead. We do not do those developments. We are here.
We do those.
I
The
mean,
ones
you
you
know,
just
we
listed,
don't do-
but not the other ones.
We don't
Not the
do
ones you don't like.
sprawling homogenistic developments. We do developments that have a range of housing types that are contextually appropriate and that are additive to the community. So if we could just stipulate that what we're trying to do is to create a place that everyone is proud of, which is why we're asking people what they'd be proud of, then I think everybody will have an opportunity to say something that they might want to see, and not operate in a position of total fear for the big bad developer, because there are lots of big bad developers and we are not they.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
but-
problem is a lot of us have experience with those big developments,
Yeah.
and it's hard to trust.
You've only known us for 2 days.
I know.
Well, and like, in the nicest way possible, you're helping them. You're not really, like, you're not helping yourselves, because when we're asking for like, okay, you guys have seen the land, what's possible? Like, you guys could have said, like, here are some example communities that we've developed for you to go look at our work, but we've never,
I thought I talked about Armistead way too much. I said Armistead like 50 times.
you never said South Hall. Armistead is only one community.
Well, because that's a, but South Hall is a hospitality.
Big
you know,
fancy
Yeah.
5-star resort. So I didn't
That I've
think
never
that-
been to because I can't afford to go there, but.
So anyway, what I'm just saying is that, you know, we come in peace. We really are trying to create a scenario to where you guys can, you know, because look, I mean, this is private property, an asset that somebody wants to see appreciate. And they want to appreciate it, and they want it to appreciate by using the laws of the land. Because just by any asset, there has to be some rules, rules to it, just like you're buying a stock, you know, there's certain things you can and can't do with, as a company in publicly traded stock. This is a publicly traded, somewhat of publicly traded asset. So there has to be some rules associated with what an asset can and can't do. And so there are certain things that we want to follow the legal process to create a space that both is legal, is contextually appropriate, and is appreciating. And so what we think the best way to do that is to invite the public in to say, what could you imagine being proud of here, given those constraints?
We'd also like it to be appreciated.
Yes.
Like, you guys would actually like it.
Here's the problem. I understand and I'm with you, sort of. But every time you go back to 4,000 square foot lots, all my alarm bells go.
So imagine this. So if we were to do 4,000 square foot lots, right? Then the chances are that we would put 4,000 square foot lots on like 15 acres. And then we would have 65 acres of open space. So does that sound better?
No.
Really?
Doesn't sound a bit better. It's scary to me.
What is?
4,000 square foot lots,
But
Why?
you don't have to live in it.
but my property values are affected by it.
They're
You've
not.
been to West Haven?
Yeah, the highest property values in the city of Franklin are in downtown Franklin and in West Haven. In West Haven, they have houses that are like 12,000 square feet, all the way down to about 1,000 square feet, and everything in between.
You couldn't sell, you
That's not for
couldn't
you.
give me property in
No, it's
West
not for
Haven.
you.
It's not for you. That's what I'm saying. What we're saying
He's
is,
saying
You
it's not
could
gonna
give me
affect your
property
property.
here. I love this area.
Yeah.
It fits me. I'm comfortable here. I know what it is. I see across the street. I look around and the other places are the same as my place. I feel safe here. I'm not worried about what somebody in a 4,000 square foot lot is gonna do. Generally, to me, 4,000 square foot lots are not as desirable as even half acre. Okay?
okay.
Um,
Well, but if that 4,000 square foot lot was part of a courtyard development with a nice landscape courtyard with walking trails all around and a community amenity and attached to open space with live works nearby that have little coffee shops in them, I promise you, those are very expensive. And the people that move into there are extremely, are not predisposed to be criminals.
My 2 cents.
Please, yes.
Thinking back to the mansion idea that somebody had, I'm thinking like the opposite of that is better, like the smaller size single family residence would be better as like a starter home, more affordable, get people to come so that then they go, you know what, I would like to have an acre lot. Where will I go? Let's look in Cedarmont Farms. And my 1985 house might look a little bit more appealing. I don't think I can compete with a 2027 brand new house sitting on an acre lot
You don't
compared
have
to
to.
my 1985 house. Like, I feel like it makes the surrounding area look like that's something to aspire to. I can move out and get a bigger lot now that I've got my feet wet in some home equity going. And maybe
They could
have-
start here and then move.
start
into
here and here
upside.
and do it in such a way that it's still aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood and et cetera. But there's the starter village. Then you move out to the,
We love that. But so the economics of that is that you need to have more smaller homes than fewer big homes.
and I personally am okay with smaller homes. I think my only concern with that is if you just a wall of townhomes, 2 to 3 cars per townhome, and there's a 1-car garage attached, means there's cars got to be sitting somewhere. And there's never enough spots for cars.
Just let her.
Oh, I was just gonna like go back to design and talk about West Haven. Since it's come up, I think I brought it up, you brought it up. West Haven is, by far the most unaffordable place in the county, I would say. They've got those little apartments that are like $1 million. It's like, it baffles me. I could get a much nicer, like I would move back to Boston if that was the case, if that's the way I wanted to live. But so I guess my question is, like, I have a house in the city. I have a house near the factory that I bought when I was like 25, and I rent out now to one of my friends because he can't afford to buy a house and he has dogs. So I guess my question is, when it comes to like the design and we reference a West Haven, like how is that really cheaper for people to come in? And like, I guess if I think about West Haven, I think, okay, well, a lot of people I know who moved to West Haven moved here from somewhere else. They're not people in Franklin moving around. Nobody from Franklin is really going to West Haven. And the houses in West Haven sit on the market for an incredible amount of time because they're so expensive and they're looking for a group that's so niche that wants that. And if you want that, good on you. I lived in Boston for 7 years and I loved it. But I just don't know, how do we bridge the gap between why a lot of people moved to this area, which was the 1-acre lots, like how I grew up when I lived in Illinois. I lived on 2 acres. So how do we bridge the gap to make the development profitable for you guys? Because I go to work every day. I understand profit is king. And bridge the gap between this space, because all of my friends who come out to my house are like, what I would do to live on an acre. If only I could afford it, but I can't now because every time there's a subdivision with an acre, they put a big mansion on it, and I can't afford a 7,000 square foot house. So how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, because of the cost of. So the cost of the dirt dictates sort of the economics of the kind of house. So what we try and do with master plan communities is create the range of those houses. So absolutely, let's have a big 5,000 square foot house, and let's have a 1,200 square foot starter tiny home, or let's have a a duplex or a quadplex or something like this to create that range of houses that sort of accounts for your different points of life, and then let those happen in transects or in sort of a gradually
A continuum.
a continuum of urbane to rural on the site.
Continue.
You know what I mean? So
So if you start in one area that it's built, it's sort of like, well, you think about downtown Franklin, right? You start in the square, and I'm talking about downtown Franklin, I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
Bear with me. So starting in downtown Franklin, it's the most dense and urbane in the center around the square. And as you move out from there, it gets less and less dense until at some point you're actually in farms, so you have this continuum of character that changes as you move through the area. The one character I would definitely recommend avoiding is the part where you leave the square and head out towards 96, towards 65, and you get to, kind of, yeah, you get to all the strip malls and stuff like that. It's hard to believe that's the same road that leads into the square in Franklin, so, but.
And the square is the prized possession of Franklin, is it not? So if you could keep with that character and not go Savannah, I think that would at least satisfy my character requirement.
Amen. And what's great about that continuum is that what responsible growth really does is repeats that continuum at different scales throughout the region. So everybody has a center of gravity that's close to them, that has some kind of density where you have, your daily needs or whatever, take to. So you don't have to be jumping onto arterial roads to do everything that you have to do. So that's our philosophy of growth, and it's really in many ways become the best practices in the country. And so what we're trying to do is to provide that little piece of that, a little microcosm of that transect here when we do a development plan communities like that. And so, go ahead.
So when you talk about lot sizes, to me, it's not about the lot size, it's about the number of people that are gonna be right there across from us. So if you have 350 houses, dwellings, 4 people, that's 1,400 people that are gonna be in my backyard, literally. I could throw a baseball to them.
Here in
in
Abington,
Albany.
Albany, cross. front yard.
Pretty good arm.
Had a good arm.
We need the bat. But if you had 75 homes, then it's 300 people.
Which is why we were surprised when he said 4,000 square foot lots with 65 acres of open space is worse than the alternative. So, yes.
To me, it's about
Because
the
of the
number of
density thing.
people.
Right.
Right.
And it's about the crowding, and it's about the development, and, the developer and the property owner can't get rich, I mean, it's the goal, right?
It could also go bankrupt.
Well, but then you walk away, and we have to take all those kids, and we have to educate them, and we have to build schools for them. And we are left as taxpayers holding that back, and it's an ongoing thing, like a negative annuity, and so it's a continuous problem throughout the neighborhood, and it's just not sustainable. And I know, y'all have your piece of the pie and you want to run with it, but just as a overarching concept, it's just not fair to leave a deficit. So, sometimes in the big community, they talk about, donating a piece of the pie to the school. Like, that's a lot of kids. That could take a small school.
It depends. If we're doing 1 acre lots, if we're doing half acre lots, or, the bigger the lot, the more desirable it is for your kids, because you get to a little playground in the backyard and all of that stuff. If we're doing starter homes and finisher homes, for people to downsize and stuff, sort of through design and intentionality, then it isn't generating a lot of kids. So
I disagree. I disagree with you. Okay. I live on, the road I live on, got basically, anywhere from, I guess there's one down the street, there's got maybe 3 acres on it, up to, 3 acres and up, okay? And I'm sitting here thinking, as you say that, up and down the 1 mile stretch we live on, I can't think of one of those houses that has school age kids in it.
3 acre
Not-
lots, yes.
Not 1 acre, no, 5, 8, 10, 12 acre lots.
Right. There's a
They
certain,
do not have, there's no children.
right, they can't afford it.
No, there's no children.
I
They're
know.
not making children.
No.
They've already made, in many cases, they've already
Exactly.
made their
The children have moved on.
and their
Right.
children have moved
Right.
on.
It's an
So-
age
so
thing
to
and a
say,
wealth
so
thing.
to say though that people, you answered her question about putting a bigger house up there, that there'd be more kids in that house. No, there's not gonna be more kids in that house.
I think the
There's gonna be
data,
more,
the
there's gonna be more
data,
kids.
the
There's gonna be
data
more,
supports what I said.
there's gonna be more kids in a 2,000 square foot house and of school age kids. There's gonna be more kids in a row of those, I guarantee it, than you're gonna have if you had 4,000 square foot or 6,000 square foot homes, whatever you want to put it. I'm throwing out a number here, but I'm just simply saying to assume that people with property also have a bunch of kids, that's a fallacy. That's an absolute, and that's what you were implying. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so let me clarify then. I'm not saying that the size of a piece of property ad infinitum is proportionally related to the number of children one has. There is a moment at which the property is too expensive for a young family to live on in Williamson County for sure. And so once you get past an acre, acre and a half, whatever, you start to see it because the people who own those pieces of property tend to be older and their children are already gone.
That's because we have been here. We had children when we bought that property.
Right.
And
And so,
different different economics.
Comparatively the same economic times. I mean, the property is, when, the income that we make today is proportional to what we bought, is what we could buy back then. And it's just changed. Now, I will agree that the value of the property has gone up ridiculously. And the nice part about having a home on property is that while there's not as big a market for it, a number of people chasing after it, there's not as many of those around. So I don't need a lot of people. If I were to put my place up for sale, there wouldn't be a lot of people qualify for buying it. But I guarantee you, there's more of them looking for something like what we have out there on our road than there are those kind of places available and for sale. Now, the homes that are built that are priced in the same range in some of these subdivisions with the mansions on a 1 acre lot or half an acre lot, better yet, a half acre lot, you got a 6,000 square foot house. Those are going begging because those are a dime a dozen. But if you've got a 5,000-6,000 square foot house sitting on 8 acres, and it's well kept, it's going to sell. It's going to sell tomorrow.
I feel like we might have diverged from.
Well, what we're talking about, though, no, not in a way, because you're talking about what you're going to get for the size of the house. What are you going to put in this area? And the picture, beautiful picture that you painted. Okay. Oh, we've got the little, 4,000 square foot lots around here. We've got the cul-de-sac with the basketball hoop in it, and or maybe a tree and a fountain or whatever else. And the little short driveway. It's got to be maybe 15 feet from the street to the front facing garage. Won't be a side facing garage.
Just for the record, I have never used the word cul-de-sac.
Excuse, what you described
It is
as a
literally the antithesis of what we do.
what you described reminded me of a cul-de-sac. I'm sorry. I'm picturing the one that we just lived off of all places, Savannah, Georgia, by the way.
and no front facing garages.
No front facing
So
garage.
where are they gonna put their vehicles?
They have a rear lane.
Oh, in the rear lane on a.
They have an
4,000
alley.
square foot lot. That's gonna encompass 4,000, so they're gonna go back 100 feet. They have a garage back behind their house. Well, how are they gonna get that? They're gonna have we used to call it in Detroit an alley.
Yeah.
But to be fancy, y'all call it a carriageway now out there.
I called it a lane.
Okay.
an alley.
Lane or something like
If we're gonna do alleys, we'll do Brownstown,
What?
because I would move back to Boston in a heartbeat besides the fact that I love my acre, but I think what he's trying to get at is some of the charm and the character that we would want recreated in this comes from driving through those neighborhoods with 1 acre lots. When I drove through Cedarmont the first time, I thought I was in heaven to be so close to the city and to have this 1 acre lot that I've always dreamed of. I liked Cedarmont Farm so much that I wrote 50 letters to people who lived in Cedarmont Farms
Right.
asking if anybody was willing to sell their house. And one person got back to me and said they were looking to sell their house and bought their house. That is the charm. The charm is the trees. The charm is the space. The charm is I can't look through my neighbor's window.
Yeah.
That is the charm that.
your neighbors.
So when you asked, can we build brownstones, was that a request or were you saying,
Well,
and if the answer is yes, I'm concerned, which?
no, that's not a request.
Brownstones are-
That is an understanding of I know you're gonna do it anyway. You have to meet your population, you have to meet numbers. That's a realistic thing that I understand. You're not gonna put, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000 square foot lots on, an acre or half an acre. You have to do some high density. That is my understanding that's just something.
Brownstone high density.
Yeah, brownstones you can't look into your neighbor's windows because there are no windows, but there's a big difference in the style of a brownstone, the south end of Boston, than there is these townhomes that they throw up in Thompson Station. There's a huge difference in the way that they look.
Which one's
My
better?
point was Brownstone in Boston every day, baby.
We got it. I get it.
Point is just that
Oh, hold on,
fewer
sorry.
people is better. I'm just trying to
What?
clear. My original
Your
point.
people's better, yes.
Fewer people, yeah, is better and us being left as taxpayers with a net deficit.
Yeah, I mean, my idea, I guess, after all these sessions, it's like, okay, I'm willing to accept you're gonna put higher density, in this neighborhood. And but I'm trying to think, well, you know, I guess there's a lot of objections. We don't wanna look here well, I see this, first of all, it kind of slopes down. That's an opportunity to camouflage this. And I'm thinking, we don't want to drive by either Murfreesboro or that and see all these little tiny lots stacked up. And then you look across the street and there's, homes on bigger lots. And so there's an opportunity that to hide some of this, put a barrier wall along Murfreesboro, put some greenery, and then you can put openings to see what you want to see. You don't have to see, at one point, you're not gonna tear down all the trees and see, hey, there's, hundreds of lots of these small lots there. You can put a little opening. Maybe there's a fountain there. Maybe there's a multi-unit family kind of in the middle of it with a parking lot. You can put a little window by breaking the wall. And at the end there, we're talking about commercial. You could put a nice gateway feature, a little babbling brooks, planting, and do some things like that. So my idea, a lot of people don't want to see, but I mean, you're right. You don't have to live there. And if the traffic concerns are somehow mitigated with this development, then then if there's some multifamily in the middle that's hidden there and you're not driving by it all the time, I don't think to me, that would be maybe a compromise solution.
There are restrictions for height. I'm
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, ultimately there will be. Yeah, so
And can you go, I mean,
I think 2.5, 3 stories.
It's 2.5.
2.5 stories. It's going back to your comment, have a nice little courtyard out there in the front, people visit. You have these homes scattered around. Then you made a comment, well, you go to this little shop here, this little shop there. That's commercial. It's inside residential.
Yeah, so there's part of the property that's in neighborhood commercial. Here it says part of the property has neighborhood commercial future design concept in Division Franklin up at the corner up there. And so we were just kind of following along that logic, but thinking about the idea of it, the last few meetings, talking about open space, we started talking about scale of commercial and things. People were worried about their becoming tons of commercial or creeping down the road or being a target or something like that. And so what we were describing is the idea of it being commercial that is truly neighborhood focused, not regional commercial, but like one of the things we asked last night was like, what if you had some commercial that you might walk to or bike to or short drive to, what would it be? So we told people, so coffee shop or cafe or whatever, but no drive-throughs, no big parking lots, that stuff. So,
And not to interrupt you, but it compares to, there's a couple communities in Roswell, Georgia, okay, that have been built very similar to what you're saying, 80, 90, 100 acres, okay? And they actually built residential homes, okay? But they were like 2.5, 3 stories tall. They had the second, third floor, okay?
Commercial on the ground floor?
Residential had the first.
business
Commercial.
yeah, live works.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you
Yeah.
say live work, that's what.
Right, okay? So they had some of that there. Problem with that was that happened, my son moved there 15 years ago. Happened, probably 5 years after that. Now you go down to that downtown, you can't even get near it. It's supposed to be residential, okay? But people get word of mouth, oh, I got a nice little shop here, I got a nice little coffee shop here, we'll go meet over here, before you know it, the rest of the community came to that, and now you got the whole city in there.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the Roswell Town Center, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole
town
basically
center.
made it downtown.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure. That's not where, while as far as making a new downtown from scratch, they did a nice job. But, it was went to success, is what you're.
Yeah, but I mean, it went over successful.
We're not talking about that scale or that amount, you know, because they've got a lot of it, right? So, you know,
It started small, as you said.
It was a master plan. committee.
yeah, it
It
was
was a master plan.
phased, right?
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
built the first bid, and then they built the next bid. They
That's a
built-
completely different scale from what we're talking about.
There, a price on these smaller houses, I mean, what kind of neighborhood would that be in? You don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we
But
talked last
I
night.
mean, I can tell you that, these houses are probably in the $300 a square foot. You know, if you're gonna rent, the commercial spaces, we're talking about being like 1,500 square feet, maybe 1,200 square feet. Like, and primarily we're talking about like a chiropractor and a dry cleaner and a bodega or something like this. It's not
I'm not talking about commercial, I'm
Okay.
talking about little houses.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
two saying that.
So,
Okay.
so if you had a 1,200 square foot sort of, starter, in there, you could imagine that being somewhere between 350, something like that would be the price.
Okay, and a lot of young people can't, that even, I don't know. What I'm saying is,
It's their problem.
yeah,
But
I
I
know it's their problem, but,
Well,
people who work here like that don't have, can't afford that kind of stuff.
That's where multifamily is valuable. We're hearing
Understanding that hardly any of the police force in Franklin lives in Williamson County. Most of the teachers don't, they can't.
So there are two types of ways to solve that problem, is either with multifamily or with something called accessory dwelling units, which is where you've got an apartment over the garage or apartment over the house, externally accessed, separate dwelling to be able to allow for a array of housing types.
But they've gone crazy in LA with
ADUs, yeah.
putting ADUs out of the garage.
That's what happens when you run out of land.
They're converting, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of, just so y'all know too, a lot of cities around the country are actually doing away with 1 acre zoning, or with single family zoning, I should say. Like, if you, you have to be able to do a multitude of housing types and all that stuff. They're making, everybody be able to do these apartments over the garage and things, because they're starting to realize like, oh, we have run out of space and we're eating up all of their countryside. Because like, right now, y'all's immediate concern is what's across the street from you or really
Right.
close to you.
Well,
and
I
it's
was
sort of in your.
gonna say, I'm not necessarily for that.
Yeah.
Living on the
But
top. I was just
ultimately-
thinking about, some people have said their kids would want to move there, well, can their kids afford
Right.
that?
Right, and
Or
originally in
personal.
West Haven, they actually made a street for some civil servants, for firefighters, teachers, or whatever. And what they did was they were it's townhouses. So first of all, that's a more reasonably priced brownstone. And then they, instead of doing like these jumbo ones like they have in the rest of the neighborhood, they actually were shorter and a bit narrower. And instead of having a big porch, so it nearly looked like a house on it, had a stoop on it. And so they, were able to do something that just by its sheer size was more reasonably priced than everything else. Now, again, product was a success. I don't know that teachers could afford it anymore. So, yes.
So a question about the numbers, just throwing it out there. You're saying you're hoping around $300 potentially per square foot. Let's just work off that assumption.
Sure.
How are you going to, and then we talked about, charm of South Hall, charm of Armstead, charm of the brownstones in Boston with single family homes, cottage type homes. I know when I think of it, I also think of like people who have renovated and added on to like log cabins. A lot of times they do those very high end, very nice. My father-in-law has one out in Hermitage that's stunning. But how are you going to like add that kind of charm and class and character, something that's only around $300 per square foot, considering that my other house is actually over by the factory, which is like known for at one time being like the low income neighborhood of Franklin. And those houses, 1,100 square feet max, 1,000 square feet max, are selling in the 450s.
which is almost, that's $375, $400 a square foot. So how would you even match
There's the three most important things in real estate.
location, location, location? But this is not an undesirable location.
Well,
I mean, that neighborhood is the only neighborhood to have a murder in the last 30 years. So
But you're like walking distance to downtown.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
it's 2 miles to walk to downtown. I did it once. And I very much regret it.
But you're also betting
Way
on
back.
on appreciation of that asset. So here, this would be new. I mean, I'm just saying what I think, if something was priced to move, it'd be 300, if we could get 350.
It sounded low to me.
I mean, look, we're planning in Armistead, the homes are probably closer to 450. In West Haven, they're going 475, 550, something like that. But, if the goal is to create a range of housing types and sort of accessibility, then you want to be able to build some that sell for 300 and maybe the same, and maybe, in a different street or a different courtyard, that same home might sell for 400 because it's got a little bit nicer finishes, maybe a little less hardy, maybe more stone and that kind of thing. The idea is to create a neighborhood where with a diverse populace.
And ultimately, you have to have, detailed design standards. You have to have an architecture review process to make sure that, it's like, it's fine to dream all this stuff and talk about these wonderful examples of precedent, but, for like, yes, kind of like, something we like in downtown Franklin or kind of like something in Boston or whatever, and then you just leave it up to whoever. And it's like, that's not what we had in mind. And so we have detailed design oversight as you move forward. That's the way you accomplish it. But I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. Like a lot of houses that you see around here that are like super expensive. It's not, I don't mean literally around here. I mean the region. They're like, it's not really good design. They've
No, it's
just done
not.
like a lot of this in and out, up and down, and all this sort of like architectural gymnastics to try to fool your eye that not to realize like, oh, like I didn't actually know how to design a house properly. And so, by doing all those gyrations and every in and out costs extra money. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have taken that same house, totally calmed it down, done something much more simple, elegant, better materials, etc. And it would be like, because you look at downtown Franklin, besides some of like the most grand, like Second Empire or Victorian homes that are in there, simple. Most of them is simple box, and they have great doors and windows and some details, and we've lost that over the years, So yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Well, we talk about the character. I don't want to pull into my subdivision and stores. You know what I'm saying? So to put that as a commercial area is a concern I have, and I've voiced at previous other meetings about the traffic. I think it's horrible. I don't know how you can do all that. Or we're just making that walkable for the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, and all these neighborhoods, we don't pull in on Arno Road. It's commercial. I think that devalues that. If we're talking about our character, for subdivisions, we're not commercial.
Yeah. One of the things to think about though too, and just it's always a hard time having these conversations because like in my mind, I have like a million wonderful examples that I'm thinking of. Like you think about places where you might actually dare say like visit on vacation, and you go like, you don't go like, oh, I don't want to be in the commercial area at all. Like, if you went to some little charming small town and you would be overjoyed to go to their little coffee shop or their bakery. And it's,
But we're not that charming.
right,
Your
but it's not a,
neighborhoods,
but
This is what we're looking at. You're giving examples of other things, but that's not who we are.
currently, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's coming, and if it's not us, it'll be someone.
That's true. But if we have some obvious, we don't want to see that, we'll drive up, put your homes, make a development, but don't make us pull in and look at something commercial. He's had some wonderful ideas here on how we can make that pleasant to look at or
Yeah.
whatever.
I got to be honest with you. I agree with you, and I agree with him, and I think we all agree that you're not going to turn onto Arno Road and see commercial.
We hope,
We don't
but
want
we have to
that.
talk to the city about it, because right now the city has.
The city
commercial
wants us to do that.
Designated on that corner. you disagree. So we're like, okay, need to change that as part of the Vision Franklin.
Must not have ever actually driven to that intersection.
There too.
Yeah.
Making sure trees there, all kinds of stuff. But in defense of city planning, because, you know, we also,
They're
half
here.
of our clients are, well,
He's still hiding down there.
city, so we would go in and write the Vision Franklin person. We actually worked with zoning in Franklin, you know. And you know, when we go there and we start to think about it, it's so high level, even to think about the whole city, and you're having to think about everything from transportation to open space to economics to infrastructure, all that stuff. So you go like, okay, well, where's a logical place to put a commercial node? Well, typically commercial nodes popped up at intersections, you know, sort of it's a logical spot for it. And we don't often have the luxury of going like, oh, I'm going to go over there and check out the topography there and
Yeah,
see what the
yeah.
distance is, whatever. It's like commercial node, you know? And so as we go through, you know, that's one of the things, maybe one of the things that you can help us with is, you know, like, hey, we'd like their commercial to not be at the corner. We say, we're all in hand on something. Yay, we agree. That's it.
I'm sorry, guys, I don't want to break.
Sorry, get out of here. Let's keep talking. You're lost.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I was gonna say, that's one thing with the site. Oh,
We heard
We made that
somebody
suggestion.
said-
Our table made that suggestion last night, but
It resonated with
Very-
me because like, not enough of them and they make a crap ton of money, or we pay a crap ton of money on them.
What are we talking
What
about?
suggestion?
Nursing home. She said nursing home. Nursing home.
Nursing home.
the senior living
And they're not
community,
nice.
because like he said, all of you guys have to go somewhere.
You guys, you must know my son. He's already got his eyes.
I think that is actually like, feels good, like, you know, I feel like it's good to have a place to
Well,
go.
imagine if we, because we talked about downsizing, so doing some of these smaller houses, cottages, cottage courts and all that. So if you downsize, and then when you actually needed, you know, assistance, you just went across the street. You didn't have to leave the community, and so you could have both of those things kind of in that spot. So,
There's a
Yes.
retirement center about a mile that way.
That's right.
yeah.
what's it called?
Fountains.
Fountains, yeah, right off, Murfreesboro.
You don't need on a lot. So I would be thrilled if I could sell $1 million house, a smaller house, it's still a community around the area, right? I mean, we don't want to take care of it. And then we've got our son living upstairs. We just go live somewhere else in one of those townhomes. And I can still get to him. So I think the picture concept would be really nice. I want to find community, but go for a community, but small. I don't want these big ones. Yeah. But I want, I'm fun, sure.
I have one more question.
Yep.
Yeah, as maybe because I don't see traffic, but would it be possible to have the neighborhood traffic, instead of come down Arno, come in where the commercial point is? I know there's a problem, but some sort of 5 points up there, or they just didn't come down Arno, just went in their head.
Oh, into the wedge here. Yeah, so the interest. Yeah, they have this intersection spacing requirements and things that they, you know, the traffic engineers want for safety and all that stuff. And so I don't know how that could work, but actually, this may be crazy. This may be a stupid idea. How about that? So I'll give you one of mine. So we were just thinking about this. It's kind of weird. I hate to even say it, but some of y'all may get excited and be like, yes, do that. And I don't know if we can, but we probably can't. But it's kind of weird that Arno intersection with Murfreesboro Road is a T, right? But then you've got Oxford Glen that goes all the way up to McEwen and beyond. And if the light were there, like if Arno actually just went up the middle of our property and hooked in to Oxford Glen, then it actually continues on as sort of regional function. And that crazy intersection, it's a weird angle and the road coming in there and just blowing all that. Oh, just.
That's great, unless it comes through all the.
No, I'm saying.
Think the problem you're gonna have, there.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. That's why I said it. That's why I said it's likely that we couldn't do it. People don't live forever, right? We talked about, like, well, we've talked to them.
But where do they going?
Everybody was pretty much against dumping more traffic on Arno, and if you don't have any left turn onto Murfreesboro and a traffic signal, I mean, I think you're gonna get a lot of blowback. And I don't know, I know you haven't bought this property, but it's like, I don't know, maybe you can offer them a little more money and, but it seems like that's like an essential part, unless, TDOT lets you put signal someplace else. I mean, if you put it farther down in Abington, but it's not the ideal place, but it's at least, you don't have one there. You could do it within, whatever the 1,200-foot distance requirement or something, but.
Like I said, it's a crazy thought, so
There's gotta be a signal on the
because then it basically just pulls Arno out of everybody's neighborhood. You have the road there, but you just not a main road.
On the road is built for horse wagons. Yeah, actually, there was a railroad going all the way down.
They don't own the
all the
land.
road. Dug up some of the railroad that I'm not confident. Yeah, you could take the train, College Road. Yes.
Are we way over time or is it just?
We're 15 minutes over.
Oh, that's all? Oh, it's 6:30. I was thinking it was 6. I was like, whoa. All right, well, this has been great. Thank you all. Appreciate your attendance as always. To see you anytime between now and next Tuesday, but next Tuesday is the big